National debt is often misunderstood. It is not a bill to be paid off like a mortgage. Instead, it represents the total value of outstanding government bonds issued to investors, functioning as a continuous financial obligation. While a personal loan is designed to be paid down to zero, government debt is perpetual. When bonds mature, they are usually replaced by new debt, keeping the financial instrument active in the global economy. Sovereign debt serves as the essential risk-free benchmark for global finance. It is best understood as a tool for economic stability rather than a burden to be eliminated. Governments borrow capital by issuing sovereign bonds. Think of these as formal IOUs issued to investors. When a government sells a bond, it promises to pay interest over a set period and return the full principal amount when the bond reaches maturity. Because governments have the power to tax and manage currency, these bonds are considered the safest, risk-free assets for global financial markets. Every bond is defined by these three pillars: the borrowed principal, periodic interest payments, and the maturity date for final repayment. When a government bond reaches its maturity date, it does not simply vanish. Instead of paying it off with cash reserves, governments employ a process called rolling over. The government issues new bonds to investors. The capital raised from these new bondholders is used to pay the principal of the maturing bond. This practice is essential. It ensures that the government maintains liquidity, keeping capital flowing through the global economy rather than withdrawing it, which would cause significant instability. By effectively replacing old debt with new debt, the government manages its obligations as a perpetual financial cycle. Eliminating national debt might sound like a simple goal, but doing so would remove the world's most stable financial asset: sovereign bonds. These bonds act as the bedrock of the global financial system. They provide the necessary benchmark for pricing every other asset, from corporate loans to home mortgages. If we were to eliminate national debt, we would effectively pull the foundation out from under the global economy. This would shrink the money supply and potentially trigger a massive liquidity crisis. Therefore, sovereign debt is not meant to be paid off in the household sense. It is a perpetual instrument maintaining the plumbing of the global financial system. A common misconception is that a nation's budget operates exactly like a household budget. In reality, they are fundamentally different. Households operate on a finite timeline. They have limited income and must eventually pay off their debts within a lifetime. Governments, however, are essentially perpetual corporations. They don't retire, and they possess the unique power to tax citizens and issue currency to manage obligations across generations. Because of these powers, viewing national debt through the lens of a family mortgage ignores the structural reality of how states function. The primary metric for measuring a nation's financial health is the debt-to-GDP ratio. This metric compares the total national debt to the size of the entire economy. It represents the relative burden of debt. Think of it as a thermometer. It doesn't just show the total debt number, but how much that debt weighs against the country's total annual production. As long as the economy grows faster than its debt, the financial burden remains manageable and sustainable over the long term. If this ratio stays stable or declines, the nation is typically seen as fiscally sound. However, if the debt grows significantly faster than the GDP, the burden can become a risk to the economy's stability. Economists use the R-G rule to evaluate debt. Here, R represents the interest rate on government debt, and G represents the economic growth rate of the nation. If the interest rate R is lower than the economic growth rate, G, the debt is considered sustainable. The economy is growing faster than the interest is accumulating. However, when interest rates rise above the growth rate, the fiscal space begins to narrow. This forces governments to allocate more revenue towards servicing debt, limiting investment in public services. As of mid-2026, the global economy has entered a high-for-longer interest rate environment. This shift marks a significant change from the previous decade of cheap credit. Governments borrow by issuing bonds. When interest rates are low, the cost to service this debt is manageable. But in this new regime, borrowing has become significantly more expensive. As older, low-interest bonds mature, they must be refinanced at these higher market rates. This forces governments to dedicate an increasing slice of their annual tax revenue just to cover interest payments. The result is a crowding out effect. Funds that were previously available for infrastructure, education, or healthcare are now diverted to pay bondholders. This is the core challenge of the high for longer regime. Governments that borrowed heavily in the early 2020s are now encountering a phenomenon known as the refinancing wall. As these old, low-interest bonds reach their maturity dates, they cannot simply be ignored. The government must pay them off by issuing new debt. Crucially, these new bonds are issued in an environment of much higher interest rates. This transition forces the government to lock in higher costs for the future. The result is a rapid ballooning of debt servicing costs, consuming a larger slice of the national budget. Fiscal dominance occurs when government debt levels become so large that central banks feel pressured to keep interest rates artificially low to prevent the government from defaulting, even if inflation remains a risk. Normally, central banks raise rates to fight inflation. However, under fiscal dominance, the weight of massive debt creates a crisis. If rates rise too much, interest payments on the debt become unsustainable. This forces the central bank to prioritize government solvency over price stability. They keep rates low, sacrificing the fight against inflation to allow the government to keep borrowing. In this state, the central bank effectively loses its independence. The result is often persistent inflation, as the economy is flooded with liquidity just to keep the government afloat. National policy has undergone a major shift. In the 2010s, the focus was on austerity, reducing debt through budget cuts. Today, the approach has changed to strategic investment. Governments are now borrowing to fund green energy transition and digital infrastructure. This is what economists call industrial policy. The core logic is a bet. By investing today, the resulting economic growth will outpace the cost of the debt. If growth is high enough, the debt burden effectively shrinks over time. An aging global population is creating an unfunded liability crisis. As the proportion of retirees grows, the tax base responsible for funding public services shrinks. Governments face a structural challenge: rising costs for pensions and healthcare, with fewer workers to generate the necessary tax revenue. To cover these mounting obligations, governments increase borrowing. This debt acts as a bridge to fill the gap, but it creates long-term structural pressures on the national budget. These demographic trends transform short-term needs into permanent debt, challenging the sustainability of public finances across developed nations. The United States occupies a unique position in global finance, known as the exorbitant privilege. Because the US dollar serves as the primary global reserve currency, it enjoys consistent, high demand. This demand means investors around the world compete to hold US treasuries, effectively lowering the cost of borrowing for the American government. This allows the US to maintain debt levels that might trigger a crisis in other nations, essentially exporting its inflation and maintaining unmatched liquidity. Countries within the Eurozone operate under a unique structure. They share a currency, but maintain independent fiscal policies. This creates a fundamental gap in their financial defenses. Because these nations cannot print their own money to pay off debts, they are exposed to bond vigilantes. These are investors who sell off a country's bonds if they lose confidence in its ability to repay. When vigilantes pull their capital, borrowing costs spike. This creates a dangerous feedback loop where interest payments consume the budget, often forcing austerity measures that further hinder economic growth. Debt is not inherently bad for a government. The real risk lies in debt velocity, which is the speed at which that debt accumulates. Accumulating debt steadily over decades is manageable, but a sudden, massive spike creates financial instability. Consider these two paths. The blue line represents steady, predictable growth. The red line represents high velocity, where debt balloons rapidly in a short window, often leading to a fiscal shock. When debt servicing costs spike, the government is forced to spend more on interest, leaving less for critical infrastructure, healthcare, and education. Velocity is the true catalyst for financial crisis. Predictability and slow, deliberate growth are the pillars of long-term fiscal stability. Emerging economies are increasingly shifting away from the U.S. Treasury market. By issuing debt in their own local currencies, these nations aim to insulate themselves from global financial volatility. This diversification of financial reserves reduces reliance on a single global benchmark and allows nations to manage their own debt more independently. National debt carries a real-world cost. When debt service or interest payments begins to rise sharply, it creates a trade-off. Money spent paying interest to bondholders is money that cannot be used for public services like education, healthcare, or infrastructure. This growing gap represents the opportunity cost of rising debt. The policy challenge isn't just the debt total, but the fiscal space lost to rising service costs. High national debt brings three primary systemic risks that governments must navigate. First, inflation, as excessive money circulation devalues currency. Second, higher taxes required to fund ballooning interest payments. And third, reduced public investment, as capital is diverted away from infrastructure, education, and innovation. Managing this requires a delicate balance between driving economic growth, controlling interest rates, and maintaining market confidence. When these elements align, debt remains a tool for progress rather than a burden on the future. National debt is fundamentally a tool for economic growth, not a personal loan that must be paid to zero. It is a perpetual instrument that sustains the global financial system. Understanding it requires looking beyond the total figure. We must analyze how interest payments compete with other spending and ensure that our borrowed capital drives future growth. By balancing debt obligations with strategic investments, governments can continue to navigate complex fiscal landscapes while fostering long-term prosperity.